All right, so Collider, explain this to me like I'm 5. Sounds like from the recent discussion about Spider-Man, Marvel did not really get him back. Yes, they got the rights to use the character in their films, and Sony got the rights to use other Marvel characters in their Spider-Man films, but the upcoming new Spider-Man standalone movie will still be a Sony movie, not Marvel movie, even though it will be considered part of the MCU. Am I right or am I wrong? Thanks and remain your awesome selves.
It is kind of crazy how many people still don't understand. I mean, there's a lot of people, so don't feel bad about it. There's an awful lot of people that still don't get how this arrangement works. Because I get tweets about it. I know you get tweets about it all the time, asking people everything about it. So just to lay it out one more time. Sony and Marvel entered into a deal, I believe in April, is when the deal got struck. And basically it's this. Remember, Sony has the license. They have the rights to do the Spider-Man movies, and Marvel didn't. Marvel, or Sony, I should say, was not going to give it up. They just weren't. Even though they just had a big letdown with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they had had enough success with the characters in Raimi's first Spider-Man, Raimi's second Spider-Man, Webb's first Spider-Man, and they had Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
But Spider-Man 3 made a lot of money.
Oh, made a ton of money. That's because everybody was so excited because of Spider-Man 2. Right. But so they knew they had a winner property, so they weren't going to give it up. But they also knew they needed help, because they needed something to reinvigorate the character. So they and Marvel made a deal. And the basics of the deal is this. Sony keeps the rights to Spider-Man. They are in charge of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is still, when it comes to feature films, Spider-Man is still a Sony property. However, the deal they made was that Marvel really wanted to use Spider-Man. So Spider-Man can now appear in Marvel MCU movies, pending Sony's approval on the script and how the character is used. So Sony's got to give all approval for what Spider-Man is used in, but Marvel can use him. And now Sony can have some Marvel cinematic characters show up in their standalone movie. So when you see Captain America Civil War, that is a Marvel production with Spider-Man in it. When you watch the new Spider-Man standalone movie, that is a Sony production with some help from Marvel. Because while Sony's people are now acting as producers on the MCU stuff that Spider-Man appears in, Kevin Feige will also function as a producer on Sony's standalone Spider-Man movies. So yes, Spider-Man still, lock, stock, still belongs to Sony, but they made a really good deal that I think benefits both sides, and we will get our first taste of it when we see Spider-Man in Civil War.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing as well, too, though. Yes, it is still Sony's movie and still Sony's property, but by making that deal as well, don't be fooled that Marvel has a lot of say in a lot of the story that's happening too, because it is part of their universe now. Because they're not just going to let Sony say, "Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, you guys can give notes on our movie, and then just go make whatever you want to make, because the last one you made was amazing." It's not going to happen. They're going to say, because you're part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Kevin Feige is a producer on the film. Okay, what are we doing for the standalone? Let our team help. We have been successful so far. Trust us in helping you out as well, too. Okay, great. That's your story. How about you guys do this now, too? Those meetings are happening and will happen. And with Sony's new leadership and stuff, I would be surprised if they weren't as inviting to Marvel as they could be, because...
Oh, they'd be fools not to.
And they would be. Back before this deal, they couldn't do that. If you have Marvel and you can make that phone call, it's like the reference I was making the other day with Colin Trevorrow being able to call Spielberg anytime he wants. Right. You call Marvel. Call him every single time. It's like, Kevin, we're thinking about doing this. Think this is going to work for Spider-Man? Yes. So the collaboration is beneficial for both. And I think that Marvel will have a lot of input in the Sony movie, as well as, and Sony's going to be inviting of that, because Sony's movie now is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I guess it's just the bottom line, though, and you're right, that all that open communication will be, and like I said, Sony would be fools to not take advantage of it. But if a scenario, this is where it comes down to. If you get a scenario where they're putting together the Sony the standalone Spider-Man movie, and Sony says our villain is going to be Kraven, and Kevin Feige says, I really think your villain should be Lizard, but Sony says, no, we really want it to be Kraven, and so it's going to be... ultimately, Sony will make that final call, although they'd be pretty stupid not to listen to Kevin Feige and take whatever he says. Anyway, Schnepp, how do you see that whole deal?
Well, you guys pretty much explained it right, but I think I'll tag off from what Christian was saying. I think it makes sense that now that Spider-Man is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even though the companies themselves are separate, Sony and Disney, the deal that was made is they're now they're pals in this venture.
They're partners in this.
Partners in this venture. So it makes total sense for Captain America or Iron Man to make a cameo in this Spider-Man movie because it's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't care if it's Sony or Disney, whoever's name is at the front, they're going to split up the money, and whatever back dealings are have nothing to actually do with what we're watching as a movie. So for us as fans, we get to see Spider-Man now become part of the cinematic universe, have interactions. Maybe he'll show up in Doctor Strange. Maybe Doctor Strange will do a cameo in Spider-Man 2. Plus, this helps Sony in what was their master plan when they announced The Amazing Spider-Man 2. They were going to have the Sinister Six. They were going to have all these spin-offs, Black Cat, Venom. I think they're still going to do that. But now it's going to be within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, wherein now Venom can possibly interact with a bunch of other Marvel characters that are owned by Disney. I think it's a great way to like synergistically intertwine the entire, create a web, so as you might say, of Spider-Man characters in the Marvel universe. I think it's great.
It's a great play. It's a good marketing play as well too, because let's say there's a lesser known character. Like, I mean, look at something what Marvel's just able to do in general. Let's say, because now we have Black Panther. To comic book fans, obviously are very familiar with Black Panther. People who aren't familiar with comics might not know who he is. What a way to showcase him by putting him in Civil War.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sony now can do that with villains or with anybody if they needed to. They want to say, well, look, we want to get this particular character introduced in an Avengers movie or whatever too. Can we put him in there first? Does it work? And they could do it that way and then put him in.
If Marvel approves
If Marvel approves. Yeah. And if it makes sense for both the cinematic universe in general, that's a way to do it. So let's say the first Spider-Man movie is super successful. They're going to do a part 2. Hey, can we debut this villain in this movie in the MCU for you guys? It's just a great way to market it. Yeah.
Hey guys, if you like this clip, click here to watch the entire episode. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel because it'll help you stay up to date with all the stuff we've got going on here at Collider.